Okay, so today we are talking about what I am calling the quintuplet Purdie shuffle. And for those of you who aren't familiar with either the Purdie shuffle or quintuplets, quick recap. The Purdie shuffle, popularized by Bernard Purdie, is essentially a halftime shuffle groove. So and in all of those triplet gaps, we put a ghost note. That essentially is the brilliance of the Purdie shuffle. You can hear many, many examples of this if you haven't already. I'm sure most people watching this are already familiar with the Purdie shuffle. If not, just look it up. You can hear it in Fool in the Rain. You can hear it in Rosanna. You can hear Bernard Purdie himself playing it. So that's the Purdie shuffle. And then quintuplets. Quintuplets are a subdivision that many people aren't familiar with, and for good reason, because we virtually never ever hear it in popular music. But quintuplets are a subdivision in which we take a quarter note's worth of time and we divide it evenly into 5 notes. Now that is really important. We're not just playing 5 notes in the span of a quarter note. We're playing 5 notes evenly within the span of a quarter note. So it's like 16th notes, where we play 4 notes within the span of a quarter note, or 8th note triplets, where we play 3 notes within 1 quarter note, except we're putting 5 notes in there. So quintuplets, if you have not heard them before, sound like this. Now, if that sounded very strange to you, the rest of this video may be a little bit difficult to jump into. You might want to work on your quintuplet or your 5-note grid before going too much further into this. And if that's something that you'd be interested in seeing more of, I'd love to do more videos on quintuplets in general. But feel free to hang in with me regardless. So what we're going to do with the quintuplet grid and the Purdie shuffle is we're going to mash them together in a way that I definitely don't want to say is unique to me, but I haven't heard anyone do specifically this. There are definitely many people that are doing cool things with quintuplets these days and much more skillfully than I can. But this is just one kind of groove idea that just sort of popped in my head and I thought was interesting, and haven't seen anyone else play it. So I'm calling it the quintuplet Purdie shuffle. Now you're going to see why I'm calling it that here in a second, but the first thing we need to do is we need to create a groove out of quintuplets. And what we're going to do is we are going to make a shuffle-like sounding groove by taking the first, third, and fourth quintuplets and leaving out the second and the fifth ones and playing those notes on the hi-hat. So again, we're playing first, third, and fourth quintuplets on the hi-hat, and then we're adding in kick and snare underneath to make it into a groove. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to play a groove where I'm going to play all of the quintuplets on the hi-hat, go and then I'm going to remove the second and fifth quintuplets, and I'm going to leave just the sort of shuffly sounding thing that I'm talking about. So rather than talking about it, let's just hear it. Okay, so now we've got this already, I think, very interesting sounding, kind of weird, shuffly, but like sort of broken sounding groove. But what we're going to do now to actually make it sound a little smoother and a little more palatable is we're going to take those gaps that we had before and we're going to put ghost notes in there, just like we do with the Purdie shuffle and the regular halftime shuffle groove. We're going to do that now with our weird sort of quintuplet shuffle, and we're going to Purdie-ify it just by putting those ghost notes in there. So here's what that's going to sound like. So that is the basic form of what I'm calling the Purdie, quintuplet Purdie, I'm sick of saying those words, shuffle. And that groove right there, I haven't heard anyone do anything exactly like that. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Show me if there are any examples. But hey, maybe one of us could be the first to put this groove on a record. I think it sounds really cool. I think it's a cool way of sort of smoothing out quintuplet grooves, which often sound very choppy and kind of broken, which is fun in one way, but I think this is also fun in another way. And from here, there are so many different directions you can go. There are so many embellishments and accents and different things that you can add. Of course, we haven't done anything with the bass drum. We can add different bass drum notes in different places. We can add embellishments like different accents on the snare. We could add diddles. We could add buzzes, all sorts of different things. So that's kind of up to you and me now that we both have the first iteration, or just sort of the basic format of this groove. Now, how do we embellish on it and how do we make it more interesting? So that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm just going to mess around with this groove and add some extra embellishments and try and make it more interesting. And I would love to hear what you do with this groove as well. So feel free to comment, tag me in anything that you put out. Hopefully this was useful or interesting to some of you. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.